Hi, Haley.
Hello, Brian. How are you?
Good, good. Are we all set? I pushed the right buttons.
I mean,
I see you. You see me. You can
every
hear
day there's
me.
a new button or something's moved because there's been an upgrade. It's
Yes,
like
yes,
consistently a learning process.
yes. And part of my process is trying to eliminate buttons that can get pushed. In
And
me. Well,
and
I
it's
told
like I noticed on my phone this morning, like just with the swipe, I like activated a voice recording, and I'm like, how? And that could be so terrible, like sending somebody a voice recording of like mumbo jumbo. I'm just like, oh my God, like it's a very strong reminder to not multitask, like only one thing at a time.
That's exactly right. When I multitask, I make mistakes, and some of them are funny.
I think that's the thing is to just bring it back down to like
It
stop the worry and just be like everything must be working out perfectly. So this is just a moment to laugh at and accept and relax into.
the person who received the garbled message or whatever is going to laugh at it anyway. And the next time they get to talk to you, they'll mention it. But, it was gone in 2 seconds. They were on to something else. I was uh, uh, lately, I've been reading my romance historic novels. And I became aware about reading these people's lives, about how seriously everyone took themselves and their lives, how there was a time in England when a person of royalty wouldn't have sex with a person who is poor. Because
I think it's
why?
still applicable today, though. I think it's still dating standards or dating norms that are within that.
Dating norms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if I wasn't married and I saw a good-looking homeless person, I'd shower him and take him to dinner. So, Haley, I wanted to ask you what your thoughts are on why do we take ourselves so seriously, and what's the escape from that?
We were talking about this a little bit before, and last night, just sort of the coincidence and synchronicity of our time together, even though we are so far apart geographically. I had my friend over last night, and she was filling me in. She's just returned from a retreat in Puerto Vallarta. And part of the retreat was taking a hallucinogenic called sapo. And sapo is the venom from a frog that's found in the Sonora Desert, and they smoked it and they had this hallucinogenic experience for 15 minutes, maximum 30 minutes an hour. And she was kind of saying that through that experience, what she really just kind of dunked into her was like, we just take this all so seriously and we complicate things so much, like we don't need to. And we were talking about this and sort of laughing, but at the same time with that puzzled like, why? We know deep down inside that everything's going to be okay. We know that we can just relax and enjoy the moment. But we choose to worry. We choose to be like, well, I know it's going to be okay. So instead, I'm just going to worry about something. And we were just like, that has to end. Like, what's the thing to get us to the point of just really relaxing into the moment versus choosing to worry? And she was saying that, since she took the Sapo, she feels like it's so much easier to just laugh at herself and let the worry go and be like, that's just silly, let it go. And we were talking about, like, well, I wonder how long that's going to last for. And we were going into sort of these deeper conversations about the benefit of hallucinogenics in controlled environments and if they actually do bridge neural pathways. But, it comes back to the very fundamental question, which is why do we make things so complicated? Like, why can't we just accept the present moment? Like, everything's fine. I'm okay. And everything out there, I really don't have enough information to worry about.
And Haley, what's so interesting to me, I'm joyful about it, but it's also curious that since recorded history, there have always been people who have advised us not to do that. they've these great teachers who have taught to breathe and be in the moment. If you look and read, you know,
I mean, it's in all the religious texts. Like the book is about how to just be present, how to just enjoy life.
and so why don't more of us abide by it? What is it that stops us from letting go and trusting that we're okay and laughing at the silly things in life that we get so worked up about?
My understanding of this is because at a very early age, we're taught to rely on outside validation. All of our education, all of our cultural norms lend towards outside validation and having these standards of success that are based on what everybody else will think. And it's very much based, like, well, if you do that, what will other people think? And
And
it's,
why do we care so much?
I think because we're raised from such an early age that that's the standard of goodness. That's the standard of being a good person. And that's how you get to heaven. So
Uh-huh.
the outside is always going to judge you.
But you and I are pretty far along on this journey to be aware how stupid it is, and yet
We still,
we can still comb our hair a couple times more than necessary as we head in the car to go out to something, you know, because we want to look our best.
and I
And,
think, we have to be intelligent with this too. And, I always say that like monks are so much easier to be in this presence because they're secluded. They're all together doing exactly the same thing, secluded from outside influences.
right.
And I think when we're talking about people doing these healing retreats, again, they're excluded. They're very isolated and they get to practice this where everybody has a similar mindset.
Yeah.
And I think we have to be smart enough to realize that when we are not in those very carefully constructed environments, we're living in a world where most of the people still rely on outside validation. So most of the people that you and I come in touch with will be asking us, have you achieved this? Or where are you with this? Or how's your book going? Did you get to the bestseller list?
Yeah.
Because that's their idea of what success is. And we kind of rush up against that wall. And I think, it's part of our journey into relaxing more, into being able to be more present, to realize all those tiny, tiny, tiny little bits of us that still get a kick out of that outside validation. We still get something out of it.
Have you ever taken the poison from the toad?
I haven't. And I've never done hallucinogenics, but I have done meditation that is more using breath to get to a similar state. Um,
Yeah, I've never done a hallucinogenic either.
and I do like I keep up on it because I do believe that there is a functional benefit to it in controlled environments. There's a lot of research. Gabor Mate does a lot of research into using hallucinogenics to help people move past PTSD. But again, it's very controlled environments and they're with people and they have support beginning and afterwards. I do have a concern coming back to worry, which has nothing to do with me, but it does impact my clients with people taking it recreationally.
Uh-huh. Because they become dependent upon the reality that it creates, which is not the
And
reality they live in.
right, and it's a crutch. Rather than them actually doing the work, they'll just go and take whatever it is. And oh my God, they've just reached a new state. And I was like, no, you were given a view into where your potential.
Uh-huh.
You still have to do the work. Like there are no shortcuts. I think, you've lived on this earth long enough. I think if there were shortcuts like that, you would have figured them out. I think that if there were shortcuts like that, these texts that we're talking about would clearly say, hey, you don't need to read these 100 pages, just read this one page.
That's right. That's right. And I feel like the repeated work that I do in terms of my mantras and morning prayers help me focus on, what I believe is true.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think I mentioned in our last conversation the Sedona method,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we
and
started talking about it.
I'm finding it really helpful. And you haven't
I've
studied it.
I've heard about it, but I haven't done it myself.
You do it without a group. You do it without, you read a book, and I read it very slowly, uh, because it's dry. But um, if they could only teach it to me through a gothic romance, man on man,
Maybe that's your next book.
I'd be reading it all the time.
Maybe
Uh,
that's your next book, Ryan.
maybe it is. Maybe I need to get into this fiction
Like
but
this fiction, non-fiction stuff.
yeah, Haley, it's a daily opportunity to let go of the things that stop you from being the person that you want to be,
Mm-hmm.
living the life that you want to live. And it's constant, and it's a constant opportunity, not a constant nagging. There's no guilt involved, there's no judgment involved. Uh, but oh, that reaction doesn't really reflect the kind of person I want to be. Let's take a moment and think about why you reacted that way. You're doing it with yourself. You're not
Mm-hmm.
talking with neighbors. Um, but so why did I react that way? Well, I think I felt slighted. Well, why does the feeling of being slighted uh, upset you so? Where does that come from? And so you sort of, trace back the feelings without judgment
Mm-hmm.
until you get to an aha moment, in which you may not have let go yet of the thing that you've been carrying with you for a long, long, long time, but you begin to understand why you've carried it with you for a long, long time. And that equips you to let go of it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so I'm, just from my own, and I've just started this, uh, I mean, I'm a quick learner, I think, but I've just started the process and I find it fascinating. I've been working on one issue lately, and it's about a guy in the gay movement who I really wanted to mentor and help, but he had nothing to do with me. And it hurt my feelings and I didn't understand it. Uh, and so I've been carrying my anger, resentment, disappointment in him for years. And so I said, okay, let's think about that. Uh, is it at all possible that he's not thinking about you at all? And he's not carrying you around because it's not an issue for him.
Mm-hmm.
So would you like to get rid of these feelings before you know, move on? Would you like to get rid of them? Yeah, well, then let's take a look at them. You know, you feel dismissed and you're not used to that.
And I think, it comes back to those little things that, we don't just step into enlightenment and everything's fine. We have to remember that we're here as humans to really learn how to unwind out of, a supposed condition into a more truthful condition. And that takes an entire lifetime. Sometimes people believe it takes many lifetimes. So I don't think we're ever like, there's always, and you mentioned a very important word, there's always the opportunity to look at ourselves and ask the question, how can I be better today? How can I be better in this next moment? That last moment wasn't my finest. How can I be now better? We always have that opportunity. And I think it's a level of commitment and motivation to be able to consistently ask that question and realize, accept, and know that the answer to that question always leads to more peace.
It
Like, honestly, the
does.
motivation here is always very altruistic, self altruistic, which is I feel more peace. I'm doing all of
And
this because I feel more peace.
and the manifestations of that piece, like laughter. I am laughing far more than I ever have. I've always tried to make people laugh, help them laugh by being funny and foolish or whatever. But I'm happier. I laugh at things that are just ridiculous. Something the dog did that would have irritated me, a few years ago. Now I laugh, because I've created this situation and he's funny. I mean, he just doesn't know he's funny. But or uh I'll laugh at a TV program that I never would have laughed at before. And laughter is really fun. It's really fun to
Yes.
laugh.
And again, I think it takes work and it takes frustration. It takes dealing with your anger to get to that place. Like, these are things that you have to look at and have to reach your point of, all right, enough. I have to do something about this. And my understanding of life is that you can't shortcut that.
No, you can't. There isn't a way around it
Mm-mm.
because you're never going to leave it behind. If you try to run around it, or you have to take your time and think it through and do it for yourself
Mm-hmm.
and forgive the other person without them needing to know it. But you forgive them for a behavior that you took exception to when that may
And
well
made a
not have
story about it.
made a story, and it was probably not even on their radar screen.
Mm-hmm.
You said, some people think that you work, through other lives to solve these. It's my goal to uh, be rid of them before I die.
Mine
Because,
too. I share that goal.
yeah, when I die, I want to be as light as a feather. Um, Scrooge talked about that, when after the three ghosts appeared to him on Christmas Eve. Do you remember? He,
Yeah, and it's
yeah,
also
yeah.
in Egyptian traditions too. There's
Is it?
the god Anubis who weighs the human heart, and only those with hearts as light as a feather get to go into their version of heaven.
Well, it just came, that image came to me. I want to be light. I want
Mm-hmm.
to be, I don't want there to be anything that uh I'm leave unresolved.
Right, and regret.
And regret, I don't want to have well, I actually don't have any regrets other than carrying all this baggage with me for so long.
Not letting it go as quickly as possible.
Right. And the Sedona method is another way of letting go.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's pretty effective because one, what I like, Haley, is there's no judgment in the book. Take as long as you need. Uh, don't worry about making mistakes. Um, it's the issue's going to come up again. Don't think one time is going to, end it. Add other things to your list because I made a list, of the things that I didn't, that I wanted to deal with. Add other things when they come up. So it's very easy, it's like sitting in a nice sofa with a with a glass of whatever and closing your eyes and just imagining a corridor out of this darkness. Does that make sense to you?
It totally makes sense to me. And I think, what comes to mind is in the Hermetic tradition, they have this. phrase that is the teacher always comes along when you're ready for it.
Mhm.
And I think, what we're talking about here is the teacher doesn't always have to be a person. It doesn't always have to be something that you pay for continually. Like you're getting a wonderful teaching, you're getting a wonderful tool to really unwind and come back to yourself through a book. It doesn't always look like you're paying for therapy or you're paying for a coach. It can be any way that actually helps you.
Yes. Having a conversation like this,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
And I
um,
think some people learn. I'm similar to you. I've had some wonderful teachers that were humans, but I would say that the bulk of my understanding of myself came from books and me doing the same thing, reading a book, taking my time with it, going back to it and being like, oh, now I understand this better. It sounds different. I can use the tool better now.
uh-huh. Reading it aloud
Mm-hmm.
changes the experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, there it becomes too just relaxing and accepting that however it looks for you is okay and is probably the right way.
There will be people who say uh, to us, Haley, or are thinking, that's navel gazing. Why aren't you out with a picket sign trying to make a difference, right? I mean, you know that argument,
Mm-hmm.
that we're all thinking about spiritual awareness when there are people who are being rounded up and sent to alligator Alcatraz. What are you doing to stop that? The only thing I know what to do is to keep uh, trusting evolution and trusting the power of love and living that love to the best of my ability. I don't know what else to do. I vote, I write letters to senators, I call the offices of my representative. But beyond that, uh, what I'm doing in terms of working on my issues, I think is, one of the most powerful things that I can do, especially if I'm talking about it with you and people might be listening, or I write about it for Facebook for my column and people read it and take away something. That's pretty good.
I, I think there's always going to be this outside validation and people will look at us and be like, you should be doing this better, or it only counts if it looks like this. And I think that's where we have to really come back to our heart and our knowing and really trust that our path and the way that we see things and the way that we are doing things is right for us. I, at this point in my life, with my understanding, my questioning of things the same way that you do in the Sedona method, I understand now that we can only really change things at the collective if we're changing at the individual. If we're doing that very individual questioning outside of what everybody else thinks or outside of, validating through other people. So I always come back and say my form of protest, my form of change is working with individual people to help them understand their lives better, to help them question, just question, and have
Mhm.
the safety and the confidence to question, and then help them through the realizations that come from that. That I believe is the most fundamental and like sustainable change. Without that, nothing's really going to change, or it's going to change eventually because I think it is the human evolution to individually be better people, to individually be more loving and return to more loving. But I think we choose the timeline here. And I think if we're meeting a problem with the same energy that the problem was created, it's not going to change. It's just conflict, conflict, conflict. And I think, a lot of what's happening in the world today, if we just take a very humble step back and sit back and look at it, we're repeating those same patterns. And when I say we, a collective we, we're repeating those same patterns that are happening at that collective level in our own homes. We're using that same language every day, but only when it's at the collective do we get upset. When it's at the individual, we have all of these excuses of why it's still okay.
Right.
And I,
One,
like you, I believe we have to have the humility to look at that at the individual level and say, okay, how can I be better? How can I be better just in my day to day? How can I be better in my, we talk often about you going to the grocery store and treating people with equality and respect. How many people do that?
mm,
How many people go into a grocery store thinking that the checkout person is below them? You can't
that's a
change the
that's an
world,
awful that's an awful thought.
but you can't talk about immigration. You can't talk about um, all of these things that are in the news without looking at yourself and being like, all right, when I walk into the grocery store, do I see everybody with equality?
Right.
If you
And
don't, you need to be quiet and go home and work.
the other thing that's helped me, Haley, is realizing that as worked up as I can get about what I see happening around me, in the U.S. and reflectively around the world, I have to remind myself that this is a drama of many dramas that humans have had to endure since the beginning of time. That even today there is slavery.
Mhm,
Even today there is mass murder. And there were hundreds of years of slavery. Jews were slaves in Egypt for hundreds of years. And where does one find joy in a world in which your family's dragged apart to pull a stone or whatever? Um, so while I can get my, is the expression knickers in a knot?
yes. Well, you can get your knickers in a knot.
Okay, I can do that about uh, what Trump and his followers are doing to the U.S. But uh, again, if I stay focused on that and that's all I think about, I'm going to go to my grave disappointed
Mm-hmm.
and
Waste of
frustrated.
time.
I'm going to be
Mm.
frustrated that I was not able to make the world a better place through my expectations of what that it requires.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm able to do what I can, that's my responsibility as a human being, not just for the US, but what's happening in Haiti. Everyone should pick their issue because there are hundreds and hundreds of them, you know. But stay focused on your own growth. And
I encourage people to look at these things that are triggering them and look at these things that make them angry and say are unfair. And then take it, pick one and then ask the question, how am I doing this in my own life? How am I mirroring this behavior in my own life? And be honest about it.
uh-huh.
And then get to work on it. Because I think, to your point, throughout history, this has been going on. The only real difference that happened is that, yes, we put some rules in place, but those rules weren't followed. And they were, we just never really paid attention. We kind of knew it, but we were just like, don't let me know because I like my little world here. What we're experiencing now is it's never been what you thought it was.
And following the rules is just following the ideas that some people had about what good behavior is.
And
It
it's
that,
just
that
keeping
doesn't
it
in a
quiet, it's keeping all of this stuff hidden. And
Mhm.
now we're seeing that, oh my God, it's not hidden. We have to make a choice. Well, do you want to keep it hidden? Or do you want to actually do something about it and make sure that you're not participating in this? And I think, when we question, am I participating in this? We participate in our thoughts, words, and actions. So even if you're thinking about it and you're saying, "Oh, I wish I didn't know about that. I wish it just went away," you're participating in creating the problem. You don't have to be doing violent things to be contributing to the problem.
No,
And
you don't.
I think we have to, my understanding of life and the work that I am here to do is to teach humility, to ask that question. How am I participating in this problem? How am I being, and in my everyday life, being this thing that I'm so hateful of and so angry by? And I think
And
every single one of us can very easily, when we have that humble, honest moment, we can be like, oh, I see how I'm doing this, the same thing in my little world. And, I realized this very early on in my life, where I used to get so upset about, as a kid, used to get so upset about injustice and not being able to understand sort of racism and not being able to understand why some people have and some people don't, and not being able to understand, why I have to move in this circle and I can't move into that circle because they're different, because of skin color or money or who they came
religion,
from.
yeah.
And I noticed this and I was like, all right, I'm really upset about this. But here I am having a family meal where the talk around the table is very much keep these institutions in place so there is no mixing. And I think, that's where we have to have the humility to ask the question about, like, well, if I'm sitting at a table and allowing this every single meal time to be okayed, I can't be angry about it then. I have to do something about this. And we
Mm.
have to have the courage to kind of either say something or step out of it.
You mean if somebody brings something up at the table?
Yeah, when like, so many people know that the conversations at the family table are not appropriate. So many people know, and they stay quiet.
Well, listen,
If it's not
I,
okay at the collective, it's not okay at the family table.
right. Well, I've got beef ribs braising in the oven right now.
Oh,
I know. So if you sat down at the dinner table with me, I'm going to serve them on Sunday. If you with mashed potatoes, and the gravy, and if somebody started talking about Trump or some other upsetting issue, I would not appreciate it because I want the focus on the flavors. I want people to say, "Oh my God, this is so good. Thank you for taking the time to make it." And I'll
you
say,
made that decision, right? There was a point in your life when you said, this is my table, this is my creation, these are my rules to be at
expectations.
my
Yeah.
table.
Yeah.
And you
Right.
had the courage, knowing that by saying that, some people would be like, well, I don't want to be at your table. Either change your rules or I'm not going to be at your table. And you're like, I'm okay with you not being at my table. There was
Yeah.
a point in your life where you made that decision.
Yeah. It's okay for you not to come to the house.
And I think that form of protest is just as powerful, if not more powerful, than going out to Washington, D.C. and being a part of the Million People March.
Right. And the other thing, Haley, that I find I'm guilty of, when you said you were talking about, we are just as bad as the problem that we're criticizing. When we throw red meat, to our group and get them all worked up, that's no better than or more noble than, the people who are doing whatever it is that we're upset about. And it's distracting people. Uh, I mean, every time I mention uh, the name of the president, I'm consciously stirring the pot
Mm-hmm.
because I'm expecting a agreement in response. And I don't need to do that. You know, uh,
There's no need. And I think it comes back to, how we started this call, how we complicate things so much. We do things that are just not necessary, which includes worrying about things and, you know, throwing meat to the worry.
mhm.
I'm worried about this, so I'm going to bring it up and worry so I can worry more about it and include more people in my worry. So then it's
And
that
my
worry.
right. So they worry too,
Yeah.
and even if they were laughing a minute ago, I've got them stopping laughing and trying to take concern over the issue I just raised.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah. And I think, coming back to what is it that you and I do differently so that we aren't participating in that cycle. For me, I have rules for myself which now extend to whoever is in my presence. No gossiping,
Gossiping.
no gossiping.
Yeah.
And also, no talking about things that you don't understand or have not researched.
That's a good one. Then that would shut up the whole world
Yeah.
because we all do. And I sometimes I hear it, blah, 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 blah. And I think, first of all, you guys, this is all a matter of perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all differences are a matter of perspective, right? What's good for me? Well, what's good for me? Well, what's good for me isn't good for you. And then we think we're so different from everybody. That's the thing that I find most sad. You were talking about people who think that the grocery clerk is below them, that we have to understand that if we truly, truly believe that every living thing is a manifestation of the divine or the universe or the spirit, whatever word you are most comfortable with, then so are the people we argue with.
Mm-hmm. So is Trump.
Exactly. I don't know how, and I don't need to know how he will work it out, if he will work it out before he dies. But he has the chance to, as do all the people who support
Mm-hmm.
him, have the chance, the opportunity to say,
They
I
have
don't,
the chance to question exactly the same
yeah,
way that you and I question everything about our lives.
yes, yeah, yeah. Do I really want this to happen? Um,
Do I really understand what I'm doing here?
yes, and the ramifications of it. And am I the person that I, as a child, hoped to be when I grew up?
And I think it's also looking at, am I the kind of person that if I died tomorrow, I would be happy with? I've done enough. I've done my
Yeah,
absolute best to be the best possible version of myself. So, you know, I'm okay.
that's why I like the question to friends of, what would you like the first line of your obit to say?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Proud member of MAGA. Okay. I mean, if that's what your life is about, then that's what the headline should
And,
be.
I think coming back to why I worry about this and why, what is it of our business? We are still, we are the divine, but we don't have the mental capacity to fully comprehend the divine. So, the person or the people that wrote Project 2025, okay, if that's your greatest accomplishment, maybe it was your karma, maybe it was your destiny to write something that just made everybody realize that it's happening in the quiet and blow it out so everybody sees that it's actually still happening and perhaps you're participating in it without really understanding.
Yep.
To me, I would be like, oh, I can see how that could be a good thing. I think it would be better for people to see something in the open versus just keeping it quiet and being like, oh, it's not there, brushing it under the carpet. So I
Right.
think it's, you know, the humility to ask truthful questions and to be okay with sometimes, I don't know, but I trust that there's something good to it. If there's goodness in my life and everything that I do leads towards something good, that must be the same for everybody, right? Because we're all equal.
The discussions, and I agree that, you know, uh, we ought to be thinking about our positions on things, not talking about them if we have no but I most enjoy conversations that are about the path to awareness
Mm-hmm.
and enlightenment. I don't
The
really want,
divine.
yeah, I don't want to talk about that other stuff. I don't want anyone to feel I'm judging it, that they want to talk about it. I'm not judging it because I don't have time to take care of your life. You know, and you don't want me to. You know, if you ask for my help, I'm glad to give it. But I don't sit around thinking that I want to jump into that argument because I have a strong opinion. It's not particularly informed. What is informed in my life right now is my growth and awareness. And if someone wants to talk with me about that, and one of the things, Haley, that I'm having so much fun experiencing is how many of us are on the same page.
Mhm.
We're not by ourselves.
Absolutely not.
You know, tomorrow night, Jason Steitel, Jack is coming for dinner.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
How
He's
amazing.
an,
With his husband too, the both of them? Or just,
pardon me, please. What's
is it
that?
just him coming or his husband too?
His husband doesn't travel with him down to Fort Lauderdale. I don't know
Okay.
why. But I did say, you know, if your host would like to come, you know, he's welcome to come. But uh, I still hope that the conversation focuses on where we are on the path and
Yes.
what are the obstacles to us that we've encountered on the path, uh,
And I think,
rather
look,
than
I would be really happy on my last day or once I've died and I'm having the life review. And the question is, how often did you talk about the things you love? And I
yes,
could say most of the time.
yes,
I would be really happy with that.
and answer the question: are you happy with the person you become?
Mm-hmm.
You probably have ideas about how much you'd like to grow because the more enlightened we become, the more aware we become, the more aware we are of what's not yet what we'd like it to be. You know, because the goal line keeps changing. You know, it's not like, oh my God, I got it. You
Right.
know,
Now in
and
mind.
now nobody talk to me until I die.
And don't
Because
do
I'm,
anything that can shift me out of my
yeah,
enlightenment.
don't, yeah, please do not, you know, do not do anything with my
I
my
interesting
karma.
story there, which always comes back to the enlightenment. But when I was in New York, one of the gurus visited from India. And he was very interesting. I went to his teaching and it was very interesting. And he was very matter of fact. And then my friend had the wonderful benefit of cooking for him. And she was like, you have no idea how intense it is. He cannot use the same utensils for any other meal. Like one meal, those utensils he can't ever use again. I'm like, why? Because his vibration is so high, he can't use things that are low vibration, that are used. And I was like, oh my God.
Mm, yikes.
And I mean, like, we're talking about like, we're not going to reach a level of enlightenment and suddenly be shifted out of it. For me, the understanding of enlightenment is you're in it.
Yes, and that's your that's your understanding of vibration and your participation in it. Um, I probably won't get to that point about silverware, uh, but I'd like to become more aware of vibration. And because people have used that word with me for a long, long time, and I've used it with others, but you know, what does it really mean? It's our awareness, our level of wisdom,
I
not
think it's a
intelligence.
level of acceptance and fundamentally a level of acceptance of your body and listening to your body. Because you can only speak about vibration if you have the awareness to feel vibration, and you need your body to feel.
The we were talking about people throughout history who have said things that are guideposts that we sometimes baffle me we haven't paid attention to. Uh, and one of the quotes uh, from Meyer Baba is, don't worry, be happy, do good, and leave the rest to God.
Mm-hmm. Leave it to God.
Huh?
I say that all the time, and I say it like to my friends, but I also say it to myself, like, this is for God. It's not your worry, it's for God.
Uh-huh.
Leave it up to God. And sometimes I will honestly say it's none of my business. I'm leaving it to God.
If I take, let's, uh, do we have time?
Yep, we got 10
Yeah.
minutes.
Okay. Um, if I decide to plant a garden, right, I can't, I'm not leaving that up to God. My job is to take care of those plants because I have a responsibility for them. Now, if they die and I did everything I could, they weren't intended to live longer than they did. And maybe that's where God steps in. I don't know. But I do feel that I can't leave the care of Sebastian up to God, nor leave up to God the fertilization of the fruit trees, right?
I don't, so this is my perspective on it. It would be a contradiction to say I'm leaving it up to God and stepping out and not, like, for you to be wanting to garden and finding joy in your garden, you are absolutely being God. You are invoking God. And I think when anytime you're being present to the inspired action and behaving on that inspired action, you are leaving it up to God. And I think we it doesn't mean that you delegate to an emptiness and call it God. So like leaving Sebastian at home and just being like, I'm leaving it up to God, God will provide. No, that's just you escaping and being lazy,
Right.
you
I think
know?
we have to be aware of responsibility
And the
in our,
responsibility is truly invoking God and being like, you know what? This animal is in my life as a blessing to me, and I'm a blessing to this animal. It is me invoking God to make sure that this animal is taken care of. Because that's the godly thing. That's what God would do.
yes.
And I
So,
don't think God ever leaves us out and be like, oh, like you're just on your own.
no, because we are God.
We are God. Like everything we do is godly, is sacred. And there are times
And
where we honestly choose not to do that.
and God does not mistreat the checkout person at the grocery store.
God doesn't mistreat you and I either, or anybody. I don't believe God mistreats anybody or anything. But we can choose to believe something different from a place of fear, and
Yes.
fear be the God versus love be the God.
Or anger.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
But again, I think that's a very fundamental present choice. Just like I've made a choice to let love be my teacher and love is my God, there are
yeah.
people that will For them, fear is their God, fear is their teacher. That's a choice.
Yes. And I believe that as God, when I take on a responsibility, God, my God is present and needs to be aware. I get in a car. I have a responsibility to drive safely.
Why?
And to, huh?
For your enjoyment, so that
Well,
you can get home in one.
well, also so that I don't cause an accident.
But that's just a benefit of you keeping yourself safe.
Right. And that means focusing for
Mhm.
me,
Yeah.
not looking at all the guys without shirts walking
Not
by.
being on the phone.
Oh, never, if possible. But I have to admit, I have a couple times been on the phone, and it doesn't work well for me.
No.
It's too distracting for me, and so. But I just believe in responsibility, and I have a responsibility as a person who brings things into the garden or brings things into the house or brings things into like the dog, bring him in as a puppy and take responsibility for this other manifestation of God, right?
And of yours.
Yeah. So I have a garden beyond the flowers. My garden is you, right? And Jason coming for dinner. It's and it's my taking care of that garden. It's much more important than me trying to stop Israel from invading again Gaza. I don't, I don't have any control over that. It's not my garden, right? Uh, and and whether Israel and they have to work that out because they're creating their own reality
Mhm.
and their own history and their own reputations.
That's them
I
creating their own garden.
Yes, um, as God, right? But maybe they're not in touch with that.
Well, I think
Maybe God's out there.
who knows, which I think again is like none of our business. I
Yeah,
believe in equality, and if I have the choice and the right to create my garden, just as you're speaking, they have their choice and their right to create their garden. And if somebody specifically comes to me and says, my garden doesn't feel great, how do I make a better garden? I'm more than happy to help. But
absolutely. I
nobody's
mean,
coming to me and asking me to fix world problems.
no,
Like, and that's where
no,
we have
they
to have
may
humility. Like, nobody's actually even has my number.
they may ask or appreciate a perspective on how to get through the world problems, right? Uh, like when Trump beat Hillary Clinton, the next day I just put up the Serenity Prayer. You
Mm-hmm.
know, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can,
Yeah.
and the wisdom to know the difference. So, and people said, "Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you," because they were spinning, right? And they didn't know, is life over? How could she lose? Da, 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 da. And I just accept the things you cannot change, right?
Yeah. And
Change the things you can,
change,
which
just
is
focus on, like, honestly, just let's just focus on our own individuality, knowing that when we focus on the individuality and we allow ourselves to bloom, the benefit of that is blooming. Everybody else benefits from your blooming, my blooming, individual.
absolutely because the universe manifests our blooming.
Mm-hmm.
Just as the universe has to absorb hideous behavior, so too does it absorb kindness.
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole question is, what outbalances what? You know?
I mean, does it have
And
to?
love, love
Like,
outbalances lack of love. You know,
I think
there are more people like you and me in the world
absolutely.
than there are people who are
Absolutely.
hateful.
Absolutely. I agree 100% with that. There are far more people that are loving and kind and actually being good people than being fearful people and unaware of the consequences of their actions and words. Absolutely. And I think that's where we have to be humble, we have to be honest and really ask the question, whose conversation are you going to be a part of? Who's going to be at your table? Are you going to
Exactly
keep
right.
inviting the people that create conflict at your table and then sit back and being like, this
No,
sucks?
no, they get one chance,
One chance and then that's it.
and that's it. If they if they change the love that flows through the house in any way, they're not going to get a second chance.
Yeah. The benefit of the doubt you get once.
You get one. Now, I'm happy to email you and I'm happy to talk on the phone with you if you're looking for guidance, but you're not going to bring that negative energy into
Mhm.
my garden. You know, I have a responsibility to Ray, to my other guests, to myself, to protect us from anything,
And
like the
just to be
desert.
authentic, we have a responsibility to be our authentic selves. And that doesn't mean every day you're changing shoes and going like, well, today I'm this, today I'm that. Yesterday I had this rule, today I have a different rule.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the same thing. Well, on that note, my love, thank you for your time today. And thank you for
Oh,
letting me be
perfect.
a part of your garden, your table,
I
which
love having you at
for
my
me is an
table.
enormous amount of fun and joy.
And the dude too is welcome.
He's my God.
I love you, honey.
Lots of love to you. We'll speak soon.
Good.
Bye.
Bye bye.